All right, get in, loser. We're going healing. You call yourself, an overthinker as if it was a personality trait. It's actually not a personality trait. It's actually a trauma response. Sorry, I needed to hold your hand while telling you that, but we need to talk about it, okay? You are not an overthinker. You just don't trust yourself. Overthinking is not the core issue, it's just a symptom. The real wound is actually deeper than that. And as you know, we always have to get to the root cause of the issue in order to solve the problem. Your mind keeps going in circles. You keep replaying texts in your head. You keep, wondering if you said the right thing. You overanalyze conversations and people's reactions. Even when it comes to the decisions that you take in your life, you think of the worst possible outcomes ever to like every decision that you might take. You second guess your intuition, your gut feeling, and then if something does go sideways, then you beat yourself up for it. Somewhere along the line of you growing up, they made you believe so little and so small that you stopped trusting yourself. Maybe it was a teacher, maybe it was a parent, maybe it was a relative, maybe it was a friend, or maybe it just wasn't childhood. Maybe it was when you were a little bit older and you got into a relationship and somebody gaslit you or dismissed your feelings every time you try to voice your opinion. So now your brain does not feel safe because of, the trauma. It learned that if I do make the wrong choice, like I'm cooked. If I trust myself and I do end up failing, then it's going to be my fault. And here's the problem. You think that with you overthinking, you're actually being smart, but overthinking comes from a place of fear, not from a place of intelligence. You overthink because you're scared. You're scared of making the wrong move. You're scared of disappointing a person. You're scared that if you act up on how you feel, you will get either rejected or abandoned or hurt. So because your brain has adapted to that feeling, then all your life you keep delaying decisions. You seek constant validation from people. You don't really rely on your intuition anymore. You have to make like a pros and cons list. For example, if it's a job or if it's about a relationship, you always ask people for their opinion about things relating to your life. And then even then, when they have given you your opinion, you still cannot form a decision. You cannot take a decision. That's not necessarily your brain being helpful and assisting you with decision making. It's literally your inner child screaming at you like, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe trusting myself. I used to do this, okay? I always used to think to myself, like, if I do overthink it enough and I think of the worst possible outcome that could happen from this situation, then I will know how to feel. Then I will kind of prepare myself when it does happen. And that's just me, like, almost manifesting the negative outcome of the situation for myself, which is more toxic than you think because, your thoughts, when they turn into emotions, they just manifest themselves. Until I reached a point of overthinking so much to the point that I was literally like paralyzing myself. So I just end up spiraling. I didn't trust that I could simply just walk away from something that was no longer good for me. And I just realized like no amount of overthinking is ever gonna solve a problem for me. I read this saying one time, I don't remember who it was by, but something along the lines of overthinking is just reliving the situation twice. Imagine the energy that you're wasting and imagine the time that you're wasting. You're literally frying your brain for nothing. So here's the mindset shift on this. You don't need to overthink any more or any longer. You just need to trust yourself more. Real inner peace is not gonna come from knowing all the answers, but it's just about trusting yourself that even if you don't know all the answers, it's gonna be fine. This is not really about being fearless because literally all of us have fears, but it's about knowing that you can be afraid, you can be fearful, but still choosing to be confident in whatever decision that you will take because you trust yourself. You do not have to keep treating every decision that you take in your life as like a life or death situation. And no amount of people that may make you feel that, block out the noise and always just listen to your intuition and always listen to your gut. I was reading this book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Apparently, your gut, your intuition, okay, your subconscious mind always has the answers. It always has all the answers. It knows exactly what's gonna happen before your body can even feel it. So you need to trust your intuition so well because sometimes it can sense and it can pick up on vibrations that your own conscious mind cannot even pick up on it yet. You have to always trust your gut. You can't choose something and then it's turning out to be like the wrong choice, but you can always figure it out. You can always pivot and make the right move. So I want you, next time you catch yourself spiraling, just ask yourself, what does my intuition tell me right now? Don't ask yourself, is this the right decision? Because there's no wrong or right. Whatever your gut tells you, like, you ask yourself, what would I fully choose if I trusted myself right now? If I trusted my gut and my intuition? And of course, building a habit is not like starting with the most extreme task ever. You can always start small. Take baby steps. For example, if you cannot take a decision on a certain dress or like a certain outfit, rather than texting your friends and asking them what they think, take one decision, okay? Just try it out for yourself. Kind of like experiment on your own, and then the more that you spend time kind of practicing to trust yourself, it will naturally just happen with with everything else later on. When you are so afraid and you feel so much anxiety and fear in just trusting yourself, do it, okay? Take the decision, even if you are so fearful, and even if you are so afraid, and even if your body's shaking, okay? Just take the decision. Say the thing that you feel the most. If it's saying no or not agreeing to something that you're not okay with, speaking up when you, for example, are being disrespected, even if your voice is shaking, still trust your intuition, because anxiety is not always right, by the way. If you have grown up with a certain fear from your childhood, your body basically holds on to that trauma. Everything that you act upon is through this trauma or from the perception of this wound that you have. And then once you start healing, you're going to start acting differently. So yeah, just practice it, one decision at a time. Start with small decisions and then build your way up. There's nothing wrong with you just because you overthink everything. You just have been taught that from a certain wound or a certain fear that you have grown up with, and your body and your brain have basically been accustomed to that fear. Somebody down the line taught you that your own voice was not enough. You know what the thing is? We can always rewire our brain and just change the narrative for ourselves. The goal is not to never mess up. The goal is to mess up and still love and still trust yourself, even though it could be the wrong thing. Don't think of it as overthinking anymore. Just like any other negative emotion in your body, just treat it as if it was like a call to come back to the real you, or come back to yourself without the hurt and without the trauma and without the wound. Put in the effort to always recognize the fear, and rather than acting upon it, just kind of understand it. Trust yourself and speak your mind, even if it is the wrong thing. But just tell yourself, like, that's my intuition.